Welcome to The Jeweler's View. I'm Courtney Gray, metalsmith, educator, and creative business strategist. After 25 years in the jewelry industry, running one of the country's top metalsmithing schools, coaching artists, advising companies and organizations, and hosting interviews with some of the best in the craft, I finally created the kind of support I wish I'd had from the start. This podcast is a part of that. Each week, I share the lessons I had to learn the hard way so you can build a rhythm that supports your creative work, your values, and the life and business you actually want. Find tools, coaching, and my Transform course at CourtneyGrayArts.com, and let's get to work. Hey there, welcome back. A client of mine lost a ring, just gone. We never figured out exactly what happened to it, but the reason that situation didn't turn into something devastating was because of a decision they made before anything went wrong. And that's what I want to talk to you about today: appraisals, documentation, insurance. The part of this work that almost everyone overlooks until it's too late and they need it. I once worked with a couple on a custom project built around this gorgeous blue sapphire. This was not a modest stone. This was a significant piece, probably 2 to 3 carats. We also sourced a high-grade diamond for his husband to complement it because they were designing 2 rings that would work together. When the pieces were finished, I recommended they have both rings professionally appraised. This is something I encourage with most custom work, especially when significant stones like this are involved. Ideally, that documentation happens while the stone is still loose, before it's set. Certain characteristics are just easier to evaluate that way. But even after the piece is complete, an appraisal creates something incredibly important: a formal record of what the piece actually is, the materials, the stone quality, the craftsmanship, and the replacement value. They had the rings appraised, and they added them to their homeowner's insurance policy. And sometime later, one of them was washing his hands in a public restroom, took the ring off, set it on the counter, and walked away. The ring disappeared. It was gone. We don't know if it was misplaced, taken, or just one of those moments where something small and valuable vanishes. We've been there, right? But because the ring has been documented and insured, they were able to file a claim with their insurance company. And instead of that moment turning into tons of tears and something devastating, it became a phone call, a conversation with the insurance company, and then a conversation with me about recreating the piece. Same client, same design, different experience. Prepared versus scrambling and panicked. And the gap between those two situations was a single conversation that happened before anything went wrong. So, what does an appraisal actually do? At its core, it's a formal written document prepared by a qualified appraiser, someone with the right credentials, ideally a GIA graduate, gemologist, or a certified appraiser. And what they're doing is creating a document detailed enough that an insurance company could replace the piece based on that information alone. That means metal type and weight, stone measurement and quality, distinct design features, and a replacement value based on current market conditions. And that last piece matters more than people realize, especially now. Markets shift. We're seeing it. Metal prices change by the day. Stone values fluctuate as well. An appraisal that was accurate 10 years ago might not come close to covering what it would cost to remake the piece today. So these aren't one and done documents. They may need to be updated. Now, as the jeweler, you're not the one performing the appraisal. That's a separate professional relationship. But you are in a position to guide that conversation, to recommend it, to normalize it, and to make it easier by providing your own documentation to the appraiser and the client. And this is the part I think is genuinely undervalued. Documentation from the bench at minimum. Photograph every significant piece before it leaves your studio. Multiple angles, close-ups of the setting, details that make the piece identifiable. Those photos cost you almost nothing, especially with the iPhone these days, and they can become incredibly valuable later for insurance, for remakes, or even just for a client who realizes they don't have a good image of something meaningful to them. Beyond that, keep records, stone dimensions, source if known, certificates if they're included, metal type and weight, and whenever possible, document stones before they're set. A loose stone tells a much clearer story than a mounted one. There's another story I come back to often. I think she was my first employee ever. She had me make wedding rings. That's actually how we met, for her and her husband. She called me one afternoon, and from her tone, I immediately braced for something serious. I thought, oh my gosh, her husband has lost his arm. It took a moment to establish that no one was hurt. The issue was her husband's ring. So he was water skiing, and somewhere out on the water, the ring flew off his hand, gone. And if you've ever made a custom piece like that, you know what that means. You're not just replacing a ring. You're trying to recreate something that was specific, personal, one of a kind. But in this case, we had charged extra upfront to make a mold. Because that mold existed, we were able to recast it. Not effortlessly, of course, there's still labor involved, but accurately. And that's the lesson. The investments you make in preserving a piece's reproducibility are almost always worth it. Not because something is likely to go wrong, but because over the course of a career, I guarantee you, something will. And when it does, the difference between recoverable and unrecoverable usually come down to a decision that you made before anything went wrong. Now, these days, of course, we also have more tools available now than ever before. CAD files, 3D printing. If you're designing digitally, these are incredibly powerful records. Every dimension captured in a way that can go straight back into production. Digital scans create a level of documentation that photography cannot do alone. And some jewelers even offer file storage as a service to their clients, so that if anything happens, reproduction is straightforward. And even without any of that, good photography done consistently is already a very huge step. This isn't just about logistics. This is about trust. When you encourage a client to document and insure their jewelry, you're showing them that your relationship with them doesn't end at the sale, that you care about what happens to that piece in their life. The clients who come back, the ones who refer people, the ones who trust you with the next important piece are often the ones where you went a little further. And this conversation is a part of that. It also protects you. Because when something is lost and there's no documentation, those conversations get complicated and expensive very quickly. When everything's documented, it's clean for everyone. So, if you're working with valuable stones or creating custom pieces, think beyond the bench. Photograph your work, keep your records, encourage appraisals, maybe make a relationship with an appraiser in your area, and help your clients understand how to insure what you've made. And it's worth investing in the kind of documentation that makes your work reproducible, because over time, that investment pays for itself many times over. The difference between a stressful situation and a devastating one can come down to a single document. Build that into your process early, and everything that follows should get easier. I'll see you next week. Onward and upward. Thanks for listening to The Jeweler's View. If today's episode gave you something to think about, you'll find tools, coaching, resources, and the Transform course at CourtneyGrayArts.com. Remember, you're not behind. You're becoming exactly the kind of maker your business needs. And that kind of depth, it takes time. I'll be back next week, same time, same tough love. Onward and upward.
singing bowls and stories untold. Yeah, here's to the dreams